Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on the 1 hour time frame for Bitcoin. Currently, we are trading in this very steep uptrend, and therefore we are simply just trending up over time. I will get to some potential price targets here a little bit later on in the video, but at the same time, guys, currently, like I said, we're in a strong uptrend, but if you start to see this momentum really start to slow down, potentially even some kind of bearish divergence starting to form on this lower time frame, as we are potentially breaking down below that ascending line of support, then be open to the possibility of another short-term move to the downside after that. Currently, this level of support is sitting at about 89.5K. However, this does trend up over time. And like I said, this is a very steep uptrend. So for example, a couple hours from now, this level of support will already be sitting at 90.4K in the Bitcoin price, and therefore I do think it is smart to pay attention to this ascending trend line. Besides that, on this 1 hour time frame, we are also seeing this bullish divergence still play out in the charts. Like I said in my recent videos here as well, typically when you see a bullish divergence, it points towards getting a break from all of this bearish price action that we have been seeing here recently. So either getting some choppy sideways price action or potentially even some bullish momentum on the 1 hour time frame. And ever since confirming this bullish divergence here at around this 83K level, we have of course seen this big run up to the upside here, currently already about 10% in the Bitcoin price. If we zoom out a bit to this 4 hour time frame, here you can see that we are still trading below this descending trend line that we have been taking a look at for a long time on the channel here. And now with this recent price action, it is starting to look like we are getting some kind of triangle pattern starting to show up. And especially if we now get another move down before then breaking out, we could be looking at some kind of big price target to the upside. I will, of course, be talking about this ahead of time, but for now, I think it is a little bit early. Either way, regardless of this potential pattern forming, this level of resistance to the upside is sitting at around 94.2K in the Bitcoin price. Again, this does trend down over time, so pay attention to that. But if we reach up to this level, I am expecting there to be at least some kind of short-term resistance. And yes, the most bullish case, of course, is going to be if we break above that descending line of resistance, because by then, guys, we will have finally broken above this very strong downtrend that we have been in for quite some time. In fact, we've been in here for a couple of months at this point. So potentially sometime soon, if we were to break above, I am looking for much higher price action for Bitcoin after that. Although, of course, it is no guarantee that that would actually happen. Moving on to the 1 day time frame, in this case on the CME exchange, we do still have this CME gap to the upside, sitting at around 95,000 in the Bitcoin price. Typically, over 90% of CME gaps tend to get filled, so therefore I am taking strong note of this gap being here. But of course, it does mean that we also need to break out above this descending line of resistance. So again, pay attention to that. Besides that, on this 1 day time frame, we are now potentially getting close to another test of this descending trend line in the RSI. And again, if we see some kind of break above that descending trend line in the RSI, we have seen this many times on the channel here before. Typically, this does lead to eventually the RSI reaching overbought territory once again. Now, I'm not really calling for a move straight into overbought territory here because the technical setup is a bit different, because that would basically mean shooting straight through this range here, which I don't think is very likely. I think there's probably going to be a lot of resistance to be broken here. But at the same time, like I said, we have seen this many times before, and typically it does result in us getting into overbought territory once again, which would point towards a very bullish price action for Bitcoin coming potentially after breaking this descending trend line. But do keep in mind that nothing I say in my videos is financial advice. I'm simply telling you what I'm seeing in the charts, and you can do with this information what you like. Next, moving on to the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. First of all, on the 24-hour time frame, there's a decent amount of liquidity, close to $100 million, sitting at about 91.6K. And there is also a fair amount of liquidity to the downside, sitting around this 88K 100K level. So potentially if we start breaking down below that ascending line of support that I mentioned earlier on in this video, we could be targeting 88K, potentially even 86,000 in the Bitcoin price, because that's where we have the short-term liquidity. Zooming out to the 2-week time frame, currently we are about to run into this big pocket of liquidity, again sitting around that 91,000 US dollar level. So pay attention to the price action, as I always say, guys, when we are trading around these big pockets of liquidity, because sometimes you will see a reversal from those exact pockets of liquidity. Again, I'm not calling for it to happen, but I'm here to simply tell you guys to pay attention to the charts when we are trading in those pockets. Besides that, we do have more liquidity to the upside as well, sitting around this 95 to 96,000 US dollar level. So this does point towards potentially getting another move to the upside after we break this descending line of resistance that I talked about previously. The 1-year Bitcoin liquidation heat map also confirms this, because we have about $29 billion worth of short positions sitting around this 100K level in the Bitcoin price. And there's even $14 billion sitting around this 107.6K level as well. Lastly, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin ETF flow tables. Yesterday, we saw a net outflow of over $140 million coming from the Bitcoin ETFs. So this is having a downwards pressuring effect on the Bitcoin price. Again, I would say that the technical analysis is leading here, and there's not too much we can really derive from these in and outflows right now, but it is good to keep checking in with this every single day, of course. Either way, this has been today's market update. We are very close to reaching 10,000 subscribers, so thank you guys very much for that. But regardless, if you do end up subscribing or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.